Hello, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Sorry I didn't give you an official time tonight. It's been a crazy day, as you guys could tell from all the videos today. Lots of stuff going on. It's been a non-stop moving day. Not everything Earth change related. There's been a lot of other things going on as well. And there's so much happening in this world that we find ourselves in. So, where to start? Well, there's so many places to start. I mean, for one, we have another dam breach in Myanmar, and that's due to the monsoon rains that have been occurring there. And we have tens of thousands of people again being pushed out of their homes. And we were talking about how many people do you think right now are refugees on this planet? How many people are actually, displaced since the beginning of this year due to the weather, weather circumstances, flooding, earthquakes, everything that we've seen, wildfires. We saw that British Columbia has now set their record for wildfires. This was the biggest season that they've ever experienced as far as that goes. And I've gotten so much good information from you guys. You guys are always letting me know things I had no clue about. Like I just simply got a message just now from somebody from British Columbia and talking about food shortages and said, "Are you aware that the Canadian government sold our wheat board to the Saudis about 5 or 6 years ago?" To which, no, I was not aware of that at all. So that's an interesting thing. And there's so many things like that going on now. As we've seen, there's been so many shortages going on. It's starting to really hit home as far as the shortages go. And we have both China and Russia now, letting the world know they're going to be kind of holding food back for themselves. And this is going to be happening with more and more countries as we go along. The countries that produce the food, they're going to have to take care of their own people. Otherwise, the people will be rioting in the streets at some point. And if you look at the grand solar minimums of the past, they always coincide with the fall of great empires and, big upheavals and shortages and all of those type of things. So we know what's coming with that. And as I was bringing to point in some of the videos today, many of you guys are suspicious, as it turns out, about the whole grand solar minimum thing. And maybe we've been played too many times to where, we were sold on global warming, sold on global warming, told all the stats, told all the figures, ready to pay your carbon tax. And then, as it turns out, there's a lot of info showing that it's really something that's much more natural, quote unquote. But how much really is natural, and how much is really manufactured in one way, shape, or form? Is how about the data? Let's do, how much do we trust the data? And I know most of you, hopefully some of you have gotten to see the first video from today. It's like, how do we know what's true and what's right when all the data, could be as illusionary as the mainstream media's reporting is? And how do we know to trust anything when it comes down to it? How do we know to trust any of the numbers? In the first video today, we were talking about how they changed what was record snowfall and just rewrote the numbers totally, saying, oh, that was done to inexperience. It wasn't really record snowfall. And then we heard many, many people, too, out west when all these heat records were being broken, saying, no, it wasn't 115, it was 107, or it wasn't 103, it was actually 98. So how do you know you could trust any of it? That's really a big thing. Are we just simply being are we just being herded along into a certain mindset? Is that part of what's going on? And so we'll take some calls tonight. It's at 614 400 5835. 614 400 5835. And feel free to call in and let us know what you guys think. Yeah, I think we've been conditioned to be sheeple. We have been conditioned. It's in the society. And some societies have been brought up more strict and militaristic than others. But there's definitely a lot of conditioning that we see. And Ryan is saying, that they have a farm, 5 kids, Washington State, life is good. Yeah, the simple life and just being in touch with nature, that's a beautiful thing. Definite beautiful thing. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
This is Steve from Michigan.
Hey, Steve, how you doing tonight?
Good. I was just wondering if wasn't there like that in Arizona or something, the weather or the like cloud seeding thing supposed to go on in September or August or something?
Specifically, I didn't remember seeing one announced specifically. I know they do it at various times.
So I thought there was one that was like a couple months ago. It was announced that they were actually doing a like a rain seeding kind of thing.
It might have slipped by me. Honestly, I don't remember that one specifically. But I'm sure, it does go on. And no,
All right, well, I appreciate it. I just wanted to see if you heard anything about it. And, I love listening to you. I appreciate everything you do.
oh, well, thank you so much, Stephen. Thanks for the call.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I don't remember that one specifically. There's so much that goes on, though. It's hard to keep up with it. And honestly, it's just as you look, you just keep finding more and more and more. And there's so many different things that all tie in together on many different levels. And, there's a lot of things going on right now, too. I did a video today on the red tide, and I'm glad many of you could actually see just, how bad it is. Hello, caller, you're on the air, and who do we have with us now?
Hey, this is Colin from Northwest Indiana.
Hi, Colin. How you doing today?
Good, good. I was just wondering your thoughts about everything going on with the whole currency thing right now, with Russia trying to back out of the U.S. dollar and holding those military drills, and what's going on over in the Middle East there.
Yeah, I think it's, I remember reading a long time ago, and it was basically a really, really good article by a former general, and he was just saying, you really don't have to worry about anything unless you see all of a sudden Russia and China, ditch the dollar. Then when they are ditching the dollar, then anything could happen. And so that's always hit me, and now we see that actually happening. So it's definitely scary now. Now we're at a point where things are changing, and when you think about wars in general, they're usually over, they're over land, they're over money, they're over all those type of things, as well as conquest. And now you add into the mix the fact that these governments know there's going to be tremendous food shortages. So they're already, you have both Russia and China. Russia saying they're not going to export the wheat, and China is saying that they might not export anything as far as food goes. That's ominous, and
Yeah.
it really is. And then when you see the scope of those exercises, they're huge. So yeah.
It's supposed to be the most massive drill that they've had since they've been Russia. I'm not sure about back when they were the Soviet Union. Um, but yeah, you touched on the food shortages. I'm actually right now in the beginning stages of like growing my own food, doing some indoor hydroponics, uh, and I think it's a really great and cheap alternative. That I just got my electric bill today. I've been running a 600-watt LED light just to go over, and it covers all my vegetables. And my electric bill was only $120 past month.
That's good.
So
Yeah, that's good. Definitely. I think wherever we are, we have to plan for all these different things. I mean, honestly, I've shared with you guys my dreams, which have gone back to when I was 19 years old and have dreams of the U.S. being invaded. This is before I knew like all those prophecies from George Washington's vision and so many other prophecies that show that Alois Ermeiler and Albert Pike, and it goes on and on. The people that have seen the U.S. invaded by China and Russia and other countries. Um, in my own dreams, they were very, very haunting about it and disconcerting. And in them, the odd part is I'm always in Florida, and that was even way before I lived in Florida. So I'm very eager to get out of here, kind of, so I don't manifest those dreams coming real. um, so yeah, I do think that tensions are high, and really anything can happen. I would expect probably something to happen big like that, more like a year or two down the road, but you never know. You really don't.
yeah, it's just a slow escalation.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It is a slow escalation, and then even if there are, the shadow government and these beings that are pulling the strings behind everything, just like as I was saying before with the Roman Empire, you had they were always stabbing each other in the back and trying to be the top dog. So you still have that going on as well, and it's even alluded to in the Bible too. With if you read Deuteronomy, where it talks about God doling out the lands to the sons of the gods. It's like each one has their own chunk, and it kind of correlates to the whole Greco-Roman idea of all these different like gods that had their own thing that they were gods of. And so it's fascinating to watch, and I do think it looks really ominous right now. I'm hoping, and I'm not really expecting World War III any moment, but I think the likelihood goes up if we get another year or two more into this what we're calling the grand solar minimum, and the food shortages really manifest, and trade wars obviously can turn into actual wars. So it's pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, it was nice talking to you, Michael. I don't want to tie up the line here. So, thanks for doing what you do.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Good to have you on the show.
All right, talk to you.
Take care. So yeah, that was a very good call, and yeah, definitely, so no matter what we get hit with, just think about where you are, and what can you do to make yourself and your loved ones safer. Obviously, having some food growing, however you do it, whether it's indoors, and but also be aware of the chance of losing the grid at some point, or outdoors, and whatever you could do to make you and your family safer. We really need to be taking those measures right now, because there's so many things that are happening and coming on down the line as well, and we can see them. There's so many different things coming together, and leaders will get desperate when the people are starving and rallying in the streets, as we have seen before. So we do have an open line right now, 614-400-5835. Yes, the lightning and the thunder have just been incredible. Brittany is saying amazing lightning here in Virginia, lighting up the whole sky, so bright it hurts to watch. I've never seen clouds like this before, as some of you have said as well. In very different parts of the United States and outside of the U.S. as well. just huge and hanging so low to the ground. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
Yo, welcome to the show. Long time no hear, Michael.
Good to hear from you. And who is this again?
This is Gordon from Utah.
Gordon, brother Gordon.
Yes, sir.
It's so good. You know, you're loved by so many.
Oh, man, I have a lot of time on my hands.
So,
and a big shout out to everybody listening. Yo, what's up, Brittany Wolf, Crystal Hatfield, Lisa Lavender, Sakura Rocco Rocket. Hello, everyone. Mary Kingsley, me, Em, all you guys. It has just been, it feels like my heart's going to jump out of my fucking throat, man. And you, Michael, so much love to you, brother.
So much love to you too. It's always a pleasure. It's great to see your posts, and you know you're a blessing to this family.
Oh man, you guys mean so much to me. Hey, listen, you got your mic fixed. You sound great, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm encircled by, basically I'm just in this tiny little room that's completely insulated and padded, and I'm just soaking it up while I can. I think I will be heading out on the road. So like you saw me do that video today on the red tide, you'll probably see most of my videos look like that for a couple weeks, maybe a couple weeks or so. And as I'm going to be on the road a lot, like basically locking down a safer place to be.
Amen, brother. And that reminds me, what are you going to do here? Are you moving yet? Are you decided Four Corners area? That's where you want to go, huh?
We're going to stay on the eastern side. We're looking at the mountains, so we're looking at northern Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina, and going to scour in those areas just because it's closer to the rest of family. You know, pretty much.
I've been telling people to abandon everything east of the Mississippi. What am I doing? Am I being overly cautious or too full of air porn? I swear I'm addicted, Michael. I'm addicted. I can't get enough of it.
It does hear that. It is an addiction, you know. I think there's going to be very few safe places, and honestly, I've gone back and forth between the Four Corners area or this area, and for some reason, I just don't feel comfortable in the Ozarks. I know the New Madrid's going to go at some point. I totally feel that. And then also, I don't know, there just feels like there's so many of the military people in the area, which some people find comforting, but, you know, others, you know, might not so. So between the two areas, I think the deciding factor is really there's family and loved ones on this side of the country. So, you know, the hope is that they could make it in time to us, because most of them, believe it or not, are still somewhat asleep. They're starting to accept some things, but a lot of them are still asleep.
And that's a good point, man. Our military brothers and sisters, our police force, those are our neighbors, guys. Those are our neighbors, and they're going to be right there with us.
Yes, and you know the other thing too. I mean, I know Rex. You know Rex Leak Project. He made the move from San Antonio up to southern Colorado. I know Diamond's in southern Colorado, but like Rex was showing, man, there's so many trees dying there already, and I don't know. You know, it just that was something else. And then we see the wildfires and we see the droughts, but then also they'll get the monsoon rains. So I don't know. I just felt like, you know, this is a little bit more fertile area, more stable rainfall, typically 5 inches a month, year round. It just felt like the call to make right now. I mean, so that's what I'm planning on doing now.
Oh, man. Well, I hope your bug out a bag is a van. full of stuff to come out west, man. Come out west, bro. Come out west and visit us. You would love Southern Utah. You guys would love Southern Utah. It's Zion country. It's prophesied. Brigham Young territory. Edgar Casey territory. We're talking about the Colorado Plateau, guys. This stuff's solid out here. Yeah, there might be an earthquake and fires and whatnot, but you're not going to be under 200 feet of water all of a sudden.
Yeah. Originally, I was thinking 6,000 feet sounds good, but I think I'll settle for about 4,000. You know, still, it's much better than where I've been living, which is about 8 feet above sea level. You know, and circled by red tide. You know, so it is bad. I mean, as I'm talking to you now, my nose is burning, the sinuses are burning. Could feel it trying to work its way into your lungs again. We've been the last like month or so just basically been staying with friends and all, but had to go home to get everything prepared and get ready to bug out permanently.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, I wanted to approach the spiritual side too, because I've been spamming that story like everywhere. Yo, you remove one crucial animal from the earth and we die. The humans can't survive. You move the bugs, you move the trees, just pick one. Pick anyone, cats, dogs, you name it. And we die. We don't belong here. Because if you remove humans from the earth does just fine. We don't belong here, Michael. We belong to the stars.
I agree with you. You know, I think that is where we come from. Do you know how many indigenous people say that our ancestors come out from out there? So they know, that that's the case, and it's pretty obvious. And there's so many things that are obvious, just like we were talking about those rose hip neurons. I was trying to that we talked about like about 4 or 5 videos ago. I think that's what they called them, rose hip neurons. We're the only ones that got them, So is it a product of evolution, or is it just simply that we're not from here? Same thing with the Rh negative factor. No other animals are Rh negative, only humans, and only 15% of humans. So some of our ancestors, at the very least, are not from here.
Yeah, amen that. Yo, welcome to the show. Everybody that's here, Awakening Aware. Thor Anderson, I see you joined us. Astro Geomancer. Yo, blessings, everybody. Hey, Michael, I want to just bring up one more point right around on that. Sorry, is this exciting, Michael? Is this exciting to you? Even though we're praying and we feel the heartache out there, is this exciting?
Oh yeah. I've known these times were always going to come in my entire life, and so, a long time ago, I was really crazy. And then as time has gone by, I'm getting less and less crazy all the time. So yeah, it's good.
Yo, Eminem Flagstaff is here at 7,000 feet. Yo, love Flagstaff. I found an ancient arrowhead there walking around the forest. An ancient one, man.
Are you in southeastern or southwestern Utah?
I am in southern western. The grandmother of the Southwest, actually, when Parley Pratt was commissioned by Brigham Young to settle the Southwest, the Mormons, they were really busy people.
That is true. That is true.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It has been probably the hardest fucking time of my life, and I've been through some hard times, yo. I've been through some hard fucking times. And it just keeps getting harder. I'm praying for this to happen.
Yeah.
Every day, another day goes by, and it's like, shit, it didn't happen. It should have happened yesterday, actually. And I want to share this dream with you guys. I want to share this dream with you guys, because it happened right after the Las Vegas massacre. And it was just 3 hours away from me that night when they were getting shot up and killed by not one gunman, It wasn't one gunman. It was obvious. It was a murderous, fucking sick, twisted shit that goes on in this world. I dreamed that night. I dreamed we were all in a green field looking up at a blue azure sky with 4 city-sized spaceships up in them, yo. And then they say alien invasions are bad, and they've got Hollywood all geared up for you to think aliens are bad, but I guarantee you, you see those in the sky, you better start clapping and jumping up and down, going, get me the fuck out of here! Get me the fuck out of here, because I'm done! I'm done!
I understand. I mean, when I was watching those videos, it was so obvious, just so obvious that there's multiple shooters. You could see people are looking behind them, and then they're looking off to the side, and you could tell the shooting's coming from the side. And one of those videos, it was so clear you could actually see four people, like a SWAT team, like a military team of four that were up and set up at a different angle. So it's just so obvious, and it is just completely sick and twisted. And the beings that are doing this, it's hard to imagine that they're human at all, and it's very easy to think of them as demons and demonic.
Yo, that's right. Yo, demons, bro. And there's so much apart eventually that we're all equal. We're level playing field here, Michael. I've been telling people for years I followed Lucifer here. I lost the war in heaven too. They took away my wings. I can't get off. We've been born here again and again and again for so long. Yo, this dream, we saw those spaceships, you guys, and we were all in this green field, and we had rainbows around our heads, like little crowns of rainbows around our head. We were all looking up at the sky, just in awe. Everybody was there.
I could relate to that dream. That was the first one I had when I was 19, and in it I remember just looking out at the night sky and seeing so many lights everywhere. And the thought was, there's absolutely nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from them. And I didn't know what they were at first, but it was just completely filled. The sky was so filled with these lights, and they felt like some sort of ships. I thought, and then I had other dreams that got a lot clearer, where there were ships both in the water and above the, in the sky that were all like coming to the land and all. Yeah, it's interesting to see, how we've been programmed. I think that you could almost take everything in reverse and you'll have it closer to the truth.
Yo, right on, brother. Excellent picture for the live broadcast for tonight. Thank you, sir.
Oh,
Many blessings. I'm going to let somebody else talk to you because I'm emotional and drunk and I need to go smoke a marijuana cigarette. Love you guys.
we love you
guys
too.
so much.
We love you too, Gordon. Take care. So that was our brother Gordon, who is definitely feeling it tonight and feeling all the weight of everything going on tonight. And it is sad, and it's hard to believe. And earlier videos I did on the on that shooting he was talking about out there in Vegas. It's just so clear that was a complete setup. Just so clear, so obvious. It's getting so easy to see through all the setups. Good to see everybody out there. I hope Mary in the Himalayas is feeling better. I know she wasn't feeling so well. Are you feeling better, Mary Kingsley? Hope you are. Much love to Gordon. He's definitely a loving individual. And so, for you guys out there, we do have an open line. It's 614-400-5835. And, feel free to give a call in. Much love out there to the family that's growing tighter and stronger every day. And that's a very beautiful thing. Very beautiful. I guess Mary's having some problems. I hope everybody else can hear me well. Can everybody hear me out there? Those of you that are in the chat room? Hopefully you guys are hearing this well. You never know what's happening. Right now it looks like the stream health is okay. A lot of times, though, they do get interfered with, we could say. And I know that Mary's over there, literally in the Himalayas, at 10,000 feet plus. So, it could be maybe a signal on that side. So, what do you guys think about about seeing extraterrestrial ships in the sky? Would you automatically feel fearful, or would you feel hopeful? Do you believe there's going to be some good ones that come and help us? Or do you just feel it's going to be negative ETs, or you feel like it's Project Bluebeam and there are no ETs? Or perhaps that they're nothing but demons or angels? What are your thoughts on that as well? So before that, we had the caller talking about fears of World War III as well. I think there are benevolent ones out there, honestly. I think we've been given a lot of the truth through TV, movies, things like that, as well as misdirection. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
Hi, this is Tina from Austin, Texas.
Hi, Tina. How are you tonight?
Good.
And what would you like to talk about today?
I would like to talk about the fact that, well, I've never found anybody like this online before. I just found your website the other day, and I have a lot of common things in with this group, I think, and which is nice to find because most people think I'm very strange, and I think I'm strange too because I don't really understand all the stuff that's happening to me or what's happened in the past to me. So, and one of the things I'd like to share is that last year, on the day of the morning of the solar eclipse, I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, and suddenly, and the word Ezekiel was in my head, and I wasn't exactly sure why or where it came from, but I was trusting my instincts. And about 7 years earlier, I had had an experience where I was told to read a Bible, and I did, even though I didn't know much about the Bible, and it was a very profound experience. But I won't go into that one right now because the one that what happened in 2017 in August, on the morning of the eclipse, it said Ezekiel. So I picked up the Bible next to my bed and I just opened it to a random page. And to be honest, I really didn't know whether Ezekiel was just a character in the Bible or if it was a book. But when I opened to a random page, I found myself opening to Ezekiel, and it was, I want to say Ezekiel 12, and where my eyes landed, it said, pack up your bags and go into exile, or pack your bags, get ready to go into exile, and do it during the daytime, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember the exact words, make sure you do it in the daytime so that people can see you, and when they ask you what you're doing, you tell them that God told you to do this, and then go to the wall, dig a hole in the wall, do it during the daytime. When people ask you what you're doing, tell them, that God told you to do this. And when it's dusk, you're going to go to the hole in the wall, and you're going to take your bag, and you're going to cover your face so that you don't see the earth, and you're going to go through the wall, the hole in the wall. And something about the prince of the land is going to find out about it, and he's going to have his men dig a hole in the wall, and they're going to go through the hole in the wall. The prince gets killed, and most of his men get killed, or something like this. That really freaked me out pretty bad. And later that day, I packed a bag, but I had no clue where I was going because I didn't know what it meant. And so for a few weeks, I prayed about it, and finally, I just picked up the Bible because I didn't know what else to do, and I just opened it randomly, and honestly don't remember what book or what page it was on, but it said, the words my eyes landed on said, basically, don't worry, you will not have to flee nor go in flight. God will come and lead you out of there, and He will be your rear guard. And when I read those words, I finally could stop worrying about where is exile or what hole in the wall the one Trump was supposed to build or something. I really didn't know what to think, but I truly feel that it was a message, and that, as this last year has gone by, it feels like it's, things are definitely kind of getting worse and worse, and if we were to, I wonder, what that hole in the wall is. That's like a portal to another dimension, and people will be saved, and the earth is doing whatever it's doing, going through whatever transition. I don't know. I just need to tell somebody, because the few people I have told, they look at me like I've literally lost my marbles, and I just thought I'd share it.
Yeah, that's referring to like the Babylonian captivity, where they were taken into captivity in Babylon, a historical time period, and they lose their home, because they are thought of as they have fallen away, and so they get dispersed, and so you have the diaspora where they're sent out everywhere. It's there's a lot of things in there, and you could take them on different levels, but most scholars would say that that's what it's talking about. But then you can look for your personal messages as well, and then there's always esoteric messages as well hidden in all those books, especially the prophetic books. There's a lot of esotericism in there as well. So there's many things to many different layers to it, many different levels to it.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't put so much stock in this, except for the fact that I had an incident in 2010, which was the first time, I was actually trying to read the Bible because of a friend who was trying to encourage me. I only made it through 2 books in the New Testament, and then I was getting ready in the morning, and I'd already read whatever little chapter that they had recommended that I read that morning, and I was getting ready for work, and I really wanted out of this job because it was a contract that wasn't really going anywhere. Very frustrating. And that particular day, I woke up, and it turned out to be the day that all the contractors were going to get fired. None of us knew that, but this voice kept saying, "Read the Bible," and it said it 3 times that morning. On the 3rd time that it said it, because I was kind of thinking, well, hearing things, and I finally said, okay, but if I'm going to sit here and read this Bible again, I need to know you're talking to me. And so I sat down with this guy's little Bible, and I just opened it to a random page, and it landed on Isaiah 54. And when I read it, it said, "Shout for joy, O barren one, you who have never borne a child, you who have never travailed, you will have more children than a married woman." At the time, I was an engineer, single, never been married, and I had just had a hysterectomy the year before. So it happened 2 years. If I had read that before, I would not have been married, but I was now, and I had never had a baby, and I'd never gone through childbirth. I'd never had any children. And so when it said all of that, I wrote down, because I knew that was, I'd asked him to, make sure that I knew he was talking to me. And then it goes on from there, but I'm just saying, this is not nothing. It's not me trying to read something into the Bible, because I'm not a Bible. I don't read the Bible. Those are the only 2 times where, other than the 2 books that I read because the person was asking me to read the Bible at that time, did I read the Bible? And that's what I got encountered. And so I don't think it's an accident. And I just feel like there's something. But I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're not the first person even today that told me that they heard voices like somebody was actually whispering to them to do something, which is really, really interesting, because if you think about it, I do feel like we are surrounded by beings on all these different planes of existence. It's all different dimensions. It's all different frequencies. Reality is just like one particular channel on the radio station that we're on right now. But if you turn it a little bit to the left, you'll have a little slightly different one. A little bit to the right, another slightly different one. So there's beings that are occupying our same space, but just vibrating at a slightly different frequency. And many of those beings, they're not all negative beings. Some of them are positive, and some of them are trying to give you clues and hints. And of course, yeah, some could be negative too. I think that the world is as the world is, and it's probably as above, so below, so that you have, some positive and benevolent, and then some, negative and more self-serving at various levels, along the frequency band. So I always pay attention to hearing those things, and especially if it happens more than once, then at least look into it and see what it's trying to tell you, and then just use your own discernment.
Oh, I like what you're saying because for sure the first time it happened, I would say 2010, it was benevolent, and I can feel that. And it wasn't the first time I've had some kind of experience like that, but definitely with a voice actually speaking in a way that I felt like somebody else that would have been there could have heard, right? But the second time, I wasn't sure where the word Ezekiel came in my head. I wasn't sure where exactly it was coming from. And the fact that it made me feel scared instead of safe worried me where it was coming from. So it's interesting. It's good to hear someone else tell me that there could be different frequencies that I'm tuning into. I should question that, huh? Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, namaste, my sister. God bless.
Namaste to you too. Thank you.
Take care, Tina. So that was Tina, first time caller and new family member. And that was very interesting observations on her part as well. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
My name is Jack.
And how are you doing today?
Really good. I really like this format. You can just talk about anything.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's good for us to. I love the fact that you guys are watching what I want to get across, but then it's your turn to call in and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And so it's good. It's good to give you guys a voice so we can hear your opinion. So it also lets me know what you guys are thinking and what you guys want to delve down into more and more as well.
So here in my microcosm of Illinois, USA, I've noticed, I really do keep my eyes to the skies, and I've noticed that there's not been hardly any chemtrails or serious lack of jet traffic.
So you're seeing a decrease in chemtrails. Now that you mention it, I can't really say I've spotted as many, but honestly, we usually have mostly blue skies, and then we usually get like big storms, and then it's kind of blue skies again. And lately, it's just been covered in clouds, so it's been kind of gray and dark a lot. And kind of hard to spot them, but I don't know. What do you make of that? Do you think that they're in a point where they're changing their program, or has things gone so far along that they don't need to do it anymore?
I think maybe it has something to do with Trump, actually, and of course not to get political, but I mean I don't know what kind of clout he might have on such a thing, but from my understanding, chemtrails in the first place was essentially big, basically like coal burning plants and stuff like that, getting rid of waste inexpensively. So cutting corners, basically getting rid of their byproduct, their like aluminum sulfate byproducts and stuff like that, and all the beryllium and just all this kind of junk that's been spraying in the airs the entire time that Obama was in. You just see grid patterns, and then Trump gets in, and it really seems I've noticed a decrease personally. But I also, I mean, again, I'm in my microcosm of the state of Illinois, so I mean, neighboring states like Indiana or Ohio or my experience is something else.
Do you is there more clouds than typical, or are you still experiencing like typical amount of clouds and typical amount of blue skies?
I am not experiencing more clouds. What I am experiencing is essentially what like the grand solar minimum guys keep talking about, the sort of fast and furious storms.
Yeah.
Due to I think they due to higher ionization in the atmosphere or something like that. I don't quite understand the science, but definitely storms, lightning strikes, stuff like that is increasing. But I've personally noticed a different huge decrease in like the chemtrail, because I mean when Obama was in, I fought for chemtrails. I mean, they were very prevalent. I worked on the grounds at a golf course, so I mean, I did nothing but stare at the sky all day, and it was just nothing but jet traffic. And now you look up and there's no jet traffic. It's like no planes.
Yeah, I haven't noticed many, but again, we've had so much cloud cover down here. And a lot of the cloud cover has been just so amazingly thick. It's just so unusual.
Like a haze.
Yeah, even more than a haze. Like we have a lot of these huge shelf clouds now. They're just giant, and they're hanging down so low. The last time I did see anybody spraying, it was way lower than I remember seeing them before. I mean, it looked like they were maybe at 10,000 feet, where they're usually at 30 or more thousand feet. So that hit me as really strange, and they actually were looping in a circle, and usually they do, straight runs, checkerboard patterns, and it was totally different. So I think, maybe something's changed. Something's changed, but also I really can't observe them down here as much anymore because we got so many clouds.
True.
But yeah, the lightning and the thunder is for sure a lot more intense. And, I notice everybody's talking about ringing in their ears. I've had that too. And I never get ringing in my ears, but it just has that feeling like of atmospheric pressure change or something.
Now, do they get a ringing in their ear? Because I've actually experienced the same thing, but I'm not. When you experience such a thing, it's hard to pinpoint. You try not to pay attention to minute stuff, annoyances like that. But these people are telling you this, or when you experience it, is it at a specific time of day, or before a storm, or after a storm, or during times of solar flare or something like that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, the thing I also noticed too is I shared this with you guys before in my meditation. We're doing Qigong. I feel like the magnetic force from the earth is much stronger than it was before as well. So I think there's definitely something going on significant atmospherically. We could feel it. We could see the results of it in the amazing lightning. And somebody else said, don't call it lightning, call it, massive plasma discharges, because it's not like what it was. It's just so intense. And the thunder that just keeps rumbling, and it doesn't stop for, it seems like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy the way the thunder is.
Yeah, I remember once, I'm about middle age, I mean, but I remember once as a kid, maybe twice, just like your entire childhood, just there'd be one, thunder that would shake the whole house, and it's just like, wow. But now, there could be a storm that rolls through, and there might be thunder that shakes the house twice, maybe three times in just that one storm event. So, I mean, what is this? Is it the grand solar minimum? What is this increase?
Well, that's what we're now being led to believe is the norm. But as I've been sharing, it's like the deeper I go, the more my intuition keeps telling me that everything is being manipulated and constructed. We had the whole climate change thought frame of mind, that led to like the idea of carbon tax and everything is man-made. It's all our fault. And believe me, we have been a poison on the earth for sure. I mean, we've polluted, and these corporations don't care how much they kill. But at the same time, we could see, I mean, weather warfare is real, and there's so much that can be controlled. And I think the technology that really exists is, at least 50 to 100 years ahead of where we think we are right now. And, at that rate, there would be so many things that they could do that would be things that most people wouldn't think would be possible and would have to be acts of God or acts of nature. So it makes me feel like everything is basically scripted, and it's all kind of being controlled through, like as we're saying in the chat room, their HARP, CERN, lasers from space, all these different things that they have going now. And for whatever reason, do they have to do a script like this in order to make Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030 a reality? Or instead of attacking us outright, make us think, this is just acts of nature. We had climate change, now we have grand solar minimum. We're going to have a pole shift. Is it all manufactured? I mean, is it all part of their bigger plan to get the population back down to 500 million, like the Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that manufacturing. I do think there's a lot more than meets the eye. But at the same time, we do have to make sure we're not, getting too carried away and just like thinking that the world's going to end prematurely. Because we could have another 1,000 years before anything happens, significantly.
Well, we hope so. We hope so. I mean, I listen to some of the other channels on occasion, and I've mentioned Oppenheimer and Adapt 2030. They're both Grand Solar Minimum channels, and both of those guys have said that they expect the population in like a decade or so, about a decade, to be basically cut in half. Just because of what's going to happen. Yeah, food shortages, exactly, and of course, that's going to lead to wars too, to what we're seeing with Russia right now, China, the trade wars. It'll turn into actual wars at some point. So, it's just interesting to see that. And then we have the, Agenda 2030 map, which you really can't find anymore. I have to go back to one of my old videos that I have it on, and it shows you like huge population reductions. And then deagle.com, which shows those reductions as well. So it's pretty interesting, to follow the whole thing. It does feel like it's all scripted. At least to me, it does.
And the big question is because everyone wants to say that Alex Jones is this big conspiracy theorist that, what's his face, George Soros is, plotting and planning behind all this. And like he keeps saying, like it does keep showing evidence that there is a script. And so it makes you think, okay, who's writing this script? And in my experience, you got to follow the money. And then, of course, if you follow the money, it's going to lead you to the most richest and powerful people on the planet. And so, I mean, it really does start to tie together, in my opinion. And that's my bad. I didn't mean to say the AG's or AJ's name on here. It might get us kicked off. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. No. It is. There is definitely a script and all, and like Mary Kingsley's out there saying, it's a shame that we don't recognize the fact that there is no death. And you can look at it from many different points of view, but I agree with her. We are consciousness ultimately. We're consciousness itself. And it hit me when I was about 5 years old after my brother died, and I've shared this story that I just somehow realized that I'm not the body, and I had this really weird out of body experience, and it just let me know that I'm not the body, and that I still do go on even when the body's not functioning. And now, of course, I had a lot more experiences through 30 years of meditation or so. So I mean, I'm totally convinced that we do go on. Consciousness doesn't stop. It's just, this is basically like an avatar. It's kind of like you're jumping into a video game in a sense, and this is the suit you have to put on in order to play in this environment, this 3D environment. But ultimately, you're just pure energy, pure consciousness. So in that sense, then we shouldn't have a sense of fear, even though some in this game are playing very, very poorly, to say the least.
Yeah. I do have a question, because I've heard I've listened to you on YouTube before, and I do have a question about, like, how do you meditate? And not like how would you teach somebody how to meditate, but specifically like how do you meditate?
Personally, I usually go by my qigong traditions, and just more often than not, I just focus on the energy flow. So basically, typically now I'll go and sit down and do a mantra after I've done my warm-ups for Qigong, which is the 8 pieces of brocade, there's many, many videos on that, because that just opens up the energy centers in the body and gets the energy flowing to all the organs. And then I'll sit down and usually do a mantra. I do have prayer beads, which have 108 beads on them. So usually I'll go through a few cycles, 2 or 3 cycles of 108 with a mantra, and that will get my whole body just so vibrating that I feel my whole energy body just so strong, stronger almost than my physical body. And then at that point in time, I just basically shut off, and I just simply feel the energy just coming in through every chakra and through my skin, and just feel the energy flow. And then invariably I end up seeing light that develops in my third eye area, and I start getting flashes and visions, and I just start seeing scenes and different things flow through, and then usually I'll get messages then and insights. And so typically the whole thing might take an hour, a little over an hour, a typical session that I'll get into. Sometimes it might last an hour and a half. It all depends, but that's my typical way of doing it. So I usually start off with Qigong, so that everything is flowing good energetically, and then go into mantras, and then just go into more of still meditation.
What's a mantra?
A mantra is a repetition of words, and there's so many different ones you could do.
Okay.
And
I'm sure I could look it up.
Oh yeah, and you don't even have to do the traditional ones, because there's what's called the bija mantras, which are like Lam, Ham, Ram. Each one of them opens up a different chakra center, and then there's Vedic mantras too, like Om Namah Shivaya. Just even Om Mane Padme Hum is a Buddhist one. There's so many different ones, and I'll just follow one intuitively, whatever I feel, at that point in time, and just do it. It's more about the vibration, and a lot of times I'll just do what I had shared with you guys, and do one just focusing in on the vowels, because the vowel sounds have so much power and ability to open up chakras. And just focusing in on a vowel sound, and it's really about the vibrating. It's not like saying a word, so you're not simply talking like I'm talking now. It's more like you really vibrate. So if you're doing om, you want to really feel it, so you really you sound it out and you feel it vibrating through your entire body. And when you do that repetitiously, you're breaking down stagnant energetic patterns. You're opening up your pineal gland, and you're opening up all the chakras. And then you could basically access a higher level of consciousness.
That's very cool. I've always been curious about that. About how, because a lot of people talk about how meditation, changed their life and whatnot. And I've always wondered what that even looks like, what that even means. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Clears it up.
Good. Well, definitely check out some of the videos I've done and explore them, experiment with them. And thank you so much for that call, caller.
Alrighty.
Good talking to you.
Have a great night.
You too. Namaste, my brother. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
Suck my ass.
That was a real intelligent caller we had there. So that other caller before that last one was actually really good, really interesting, and got us to talk about mantras and meditation as well. And it could be so beneficial, especially in these times. And I have so many of you guys out there that are constantly sending me tidbits of info. And Catherine, who's down here in Florida, just sent me one saying Publix is recalling ground beef for E. coli contamination. Just so you guys know, if you bought any ground beef and you're in Florida, there is a recall going on. And isn't that interesting? Possible E. coli contamination. Remember I was talking about in, I don't know if it was today's video, I think it was, about a possible mad cow case here in Florida. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
Hi, Michael. This is Lisa from Northport. How are you tonight?
Very good, Sister Lisa. How are you?
I'm fine. I wanted to call in and add something that might help. I can't remember her name, but the young lady who had experiences hearing the voices that said to her Ezekiel and that told her other things to do.
Okay.
I'd like to just share briefly with our family and the listeners tonight how the lesson of my grandmother, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
But more briefly than I had shared it with you at a previous time.
Sure, that'd be fine, Lisa. Go right ahead.
Okay. I had a grandmother who was very spiritual. And when I was a little girl, she told me that one day she was doing dishes, and at this time my grandfather was very, very ill. He was dying, and they thought that he had emphysema. We've later come out to find that it was the mesothelioma that you get when you work around asbestos. However, at the time they didn't know that, and she was doing her dishes, and she, every Tuesday, would go do her shopping. And while doing her dishes, she had 1,000 different thoughts running through her head. And then this one day, a thought that did not belong to her said, Bill will die quietly on a Tuesday. And Bill was my grandfather's name. Well, before she told me this, she told me that an angel had given her a message. And as a child, I was so excited. I wanted to know, Grandmama, what did that angel look like? And she sat me down on her lap, and she told me, no, darling, I didn't see the angel. The angel spoke to me. And she told me that that angel spoke to her in a strong, strong thought that interrupted all the other thoughts in her brain, but that was so strong she could not ignore it. And during my life, my grandmother taught me that an angel could speak to you and give you a message, and that is how it would do it. It would interrupt your thought line. You would know that it wasn't your thinking. It would give you a message that was short and simple, clear to the point, and that these messages would either be of warning or of comfort or of leadership and guidance, that they would never, ever be of anything dark, anything mean, that it would only be of goodness, because God is of goodness. Source is of goodness. So I always believed her, because she was my grandmother, who was one of the most kindest, godly women I ever knew. And grandmother did not attend church every Sunday. She wasn't a Bible thumper. After my grandfather died, she really became quite a recluse. But she was a very loving person, walking her life as she believed Christ would, was sharing love, peace, kindness, understanding, and forgiveness. Well, when I was 18, I was going down the highway thinking 1,000 different thoughts, and I heard one of those thoughts come into my head, and it said, "Change lanes now." And I kind of came back to my senses, and I was behind a logging truck. And in those days, logging trucks didn't have these big metal bars that run up the sides of them now, say every 3 feet. In those days, they were just wrapped with chains. But I knew that that was like what she had told me about. And I changed my lane immediately. And I had no more got, say, like 5 feet up on the side of the truck in the other lane when I saw the chains breaking. And I was just like, thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. And from that point on, I have had more experiences than I can count. But what I wanted to say is that I believe in our society, about 100 years ago, we got so involved with psychology, and that there was a fear put into us of, oh my gosh, if we hear a voice, we're going crazy. And if we tell anyone, oh, they're going to put us in the mental institution and give us shock therapy, or, lock us away forever. That we stopped talking to each other about these godly experiences or spiritual communications that we would receive. And so now when we receive it and we want to tell somebody that we had a miracle, we are loaded down with fear that they're going to think we're crazy. But in my reading, I came across something once that was very comforting to me. And I don't want to preach. I just want to give you one verse, and that was John 10:27 and 8. And this comes straight from the Bible. This is a real modern translation. And once again, that's John 10, verse 27 and 28. And he says, "My sheep know my voice, and I know them. They follow me, and I give them eternal life so that they will never be lost." And I just think, there it is, right there. He says right there in his word that we will know his voice. So when people are listening and they call in and they say, oh, well, you're just letting the devil get into your brain when you go within and when you hear these voices through meditation, I want each one of you to tell them, no, no, no. It's not evil. You will know the difference between evil and between good. God will never tell you anything evil to do. And that's just what I wanted to share with you tonight.
Well, thank you, Lisa. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I agree with you. It's just about discernment. And that's the word I've been using constantly. It's discernment all the time. So if it's something that's promoting love or something that is, of loving nature, then it's obviously not going to be bad. It's been programmed into us. It's too sad how programmed into us it's been, that fear. And really, a lot of that goes back to the Catholic Church. It really does. And if you guys get a chance to check out that video that I did on that, then you kind of can understand the history of it. And there's so much more to that as well. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree with you totally. I mean, ultimately, God is love. And it's going to be something. If the energy, you will know them by their fruit. It's that simple. Is it loving? Does it promote love and compassion and everything that is good, or is it something that's promoting divisiveness, negative aspects of competition and dissension? Then obviously it's not of God.
Exactly, and we are smart enough. We could discern that, and God is so much more real than the church ever wanted us to believe. He is so much more there with us. We don't need the preachers and the confessional and all the ways they wanted to make us dependent on the church to have a relationship with God. God's right here for us, and all we have to do is go within. He's waiting. He's waiting. He wants to be closer to us. He wants to lead and guide us and show us his love. We all have it in us. We were all born with him in us. A God spark, if you want to call it that. So, thank you, for letting me share that tonight. And one other thing I do want to say is that talking about the chemtrails, sometimes I think that they're spreading more chemtrails over more densely populated areas. When I went up into the North Georgia mountains this summer, there were no chemtrails being sprayed. And as soon as I got back down into Florida, they were everywhere.
Yeah, I do
and in
think
the North
it's
Georgia mountains, there wasn't a high population.
right.
But when you look into Atlanta, well, yeah, they were spraying them in Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does make me wonder just what they have planned. And also, a friend of mine came across something very upsetting. Their truck broke down in an area called Madison, Georgia at night, and they pulled off on this little tiny piece of dirt road that ended up having a big chain link fence behind it, So it was just like this little driveway with a big chain link fence, and they were shining their flashlights trying to look inside the, underneath the hood of the car, and they turned their lights around, and they were like, what is that? And what they actually discovered was a gigantic yard, like a warehouse yard, filled with these gigantic stacks of what looked to be family-sized plastic coffins. And these guys say it looked like Indiana Jones's warehouse. The property was so big. And then when he got online to try to figure out what in the world it was, you can actually Google Madison, Georgia's coffins. And it is like they are out in the middle of nowhere. They're behind a big, gigantic, fenced-in lot, acres of them. And around this is trees, right? So that you can't even see behind the fence. unless you're going into the gate, okay? And it's on this road that the only reason they took it was they were working on with in partnership with DOT, spraying the seed on the side of the slopes for the interstates, like landscaping, you know. And they were coming back into a smaller town called Gainesville, Florida, where their equipment was kept.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at them right now. I have it up on the screen. I could see that.
Yeah, it's like they have preparations to bury a lot of people. And they will tell you, there's other sources that say, oh, it's a hoax. And those are just where companies keep these, and they're liners for regular graves. But I am very close friends with people in the funeral business, and they say, no, those aren't liners. And you would never need, no company would ever mass produce that many of them and keep them stored in one area like that. And people who are friends with me who are in the funeral business tell me that there are locations like that all over the country too. And I don't know if any other callers are aware of that, but
that's
the country,
pretty creepy stuff.
Yeah, they're getting ready for something, you know, unfortunately. So I really do think it's a good idea that people think about protecting their own lives, getting to some place that's safe, and preferably away from the cities. Because I don't know what they're spraying our cities with, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's, I don't know, something that will weaken our immune system so that they can come along and spray something else that will make us all so sick that we'll die.
Huh.
I'm sorry, that sounds negative, I know, you know, and I'm not a negative person. But it's a thought. I just don't, with all of this Agenda 21, you really don't know what's going to happen. But they are definitely preparing for something. So, have people look that up. Have people try to prepare. Have people try to think about maybe making way for themselves and having their bug-out plans ready.
It's good to be prepared.
I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, it's definitely good to be prepared for pretty much anything that we could be facing.
And yet, we all still need to remember that we're children of the light, and that divine protection is real. Divine protection is real, you know? And that we still have time to change things, and group together in prayer and in positive affirmations, and let's try to make it better. Okay? So, anyway, I'm so glad that you perform what you do, that you open everybody's eyes, that you give us a platform to talk on, to encourage each other, but yet to inform each other. Okay?
Thank you.
I didn't mean to leave y'all with a negative taste in your mouth, but there are things going on, you know?
Definitely.
But there's also more good in the world than there is bad. Because you know what? There's more good people than there are bad people. All right, Michael, I love you. Mm-hmm. Have a good evening. I'm going to get off the phone so somebody else can talk about something more cheerful.
Okay, my dear. Love you too, Lisa. Take care, my sister.
Okay, you too. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye. So that went from angels and things to FEMA coffins. But, you know, hey, we cover it all. And that's part of it. We need to look at all sides of it. And, you know, we don't want to be caught off guard or unsuspecting. And, you know, they definitely have things planned. I mean, we were looking at all this before. We've talked about, you know, Deagle again, you know, and we brought up those FEMA coffins again. And I know not everybody believes the Deagle thing, but you know what? It all goes together. And it's not just it's not just looking at this and saying this isn't right. And if we look at the U.S. here, we're going from 327 million inhabitants to the year 2025, that magic year that keeps popping up, 2025, 100 million. And that is it, because we're talking about density of 10 inhabitants a square kilometer, and the density over here is 34 inhabitants a square kilometer. So that's what they're talking, that type of reduction. And interesting to see the military budget go down to 32 billion. 637 billion is what they're showing, but it's actually bumped up to 700 now. And this goes along with that whole thought of China and Russia sneak attack, because population 1.4 billion, population 1.4 billion, sneak attack, they don't lose anybody. Their military budget goes up from 226 billion to 310 billion. And when we look at Russia, their population doesn't really change, 142. Their military budget goes from 79 billion to 186, so it doubles. So, it's pretty obvious. And as I showed before in other videos, you go down every single ally of the U.S., all the NATO countries, they all lose population. And it's not just here, it's in the Agenda 21 map as well. Hello, Brother Netsaya.
Hello, Brother Michael. How you doing?
Good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I just called by luck, and you answered again. No, nothing. I didn't get any notification, nothing. Again, I went to your page. It doesn't show us live, but I figured I called and see if maybe you were on live, because I remember your last video you were saying that the next one will be on Thursday. So thankfully I'm on. And how's it going with you, Michael?
Going good. And tonight it was my fault because I didn't send out a notification, because I got too wrapped up in putting 3 videos out today, and I ran late. But,
okay, so yeah, cool.
But so I won't blame YouTube on that one. So what's on your mind tonight?
Tonight, just basically a little more of the internal work. I keep, hearing people about, asking you about, being curious about meditation and stuff like that, and you always give them your perspective. So I just wanted to, I don't know, maybe share my perspective of what meditation has been like to me, meaning like how to, basically, what are the things to look out for, because technically there is no wrong way or right way to do anything for that matter, but especially for meditation. But the thing I want to share with people is a few key points, and that way they can feel like, okay, I see what he means, that there is no wrong way of doing it. It really belongs more towards intention. So with this in mind, basically what we've got to keep in mind is when we meditate, what happens is the very first thing is breathing, breath. In case you guys didn't know, we detoxify at least 70% through breathing alone. So imagine, that's why the yogis believe that if you can control your breathing, you can control your mind. And if you can, and they don't say this, but this is why I add to it, but if you can control your mind, and Michael, you understand this part, is if you can control your mind, you can control your reality. You can manifest the ideal reality that you wish upon yourself, but in a not so biased manner, because when you're biased, when you're selfish, the law of attraction doesn't work that great. It usually blows up in your face. So anyways, so keep that in mind, that when we breathe, if you take a conscious breath, guess what? That's how much more you appreciate God, you appreciate yourself. Why? Because you're breathing in that extra conscious breath. And therefore, you're actually detoxifying that extra much more. I swear to you, it sounds weird, but I swear, 70% through breathing alone. Now, the mental state. Here's where we go into a transcendental state of being, state of mind, because the thing is, when we're normal, calculating, driving, doing what we need to do, helping out children, whatever the case may be, we're in beta state of mind. That's not a good state of mind to be in. We can't help it but to be in that if we want to, survive and be able to be able to react properly to our everyday living. But when we're breathing profoundly the way we do in meditation, we slowly but surely start to fall into alpha state of mind. After you've been doing it for at least a month or so, maybe once a week at least, you'll go into alpha state of mind pretty easily. It's just difficult to stay there because once you're not relaxed, you're out of alpha. When you're in alpha, we all do. Doesn't matter whether you believe in this or not. We all start the repairing, not necessarily healing, but the repairing part. And then once we go deeper in, once we're in at least 15 minutes, that's when we go into theta state of mind. Okay, and if we can stay in theta state of mind without falling asleep, because theta state of mind is that dream state right before you fall asleep or right after you wake up, and you're still a little bit sleepy, you're not fully alert, that's theta state of mind. And if you can keep yourself in that state of mind, that's where the true healing happens. Think about this way, whether you know this or not, when you get a chance, whoever's listening, look up Hindu images of the Hindu gods, whether you believe in them or not, just look it up. Whichever one you find, most of them, you will find that they're like half asleep, half awake. They look like they just had sex. That's because they're in the theta state of mind. They're so relaxed, they're about to fall asleep, but not really. And that's why their eyes are like squinting. That goes to show you they're giving us an example of what needs to be happening with us. Because remember, when we close our eyes, the pineal gland gets activated. What that means overall, technically, it just means your creativity gets opened up, and then you start to use your imagination properly. Okay, so there goes that part. So one thing is with meditation, you cannot silence the mind. That's not the key in meditation. The key in meditation is just to, in a sense, escape reality for that moment so that you can actually live in the moment, which is you filtering air with your nostril hairs, okay? Simple stuff like that. I know that sounded funny, but really, those are the things that we just need to get lost in. Why? Because when we get lost in those silly little things, the sounds we hear in the background, stuff like that, we don't pay attention to our cluttery mind, which is the undisciplined ego. And our goal is to discipline the ego to, quiet down, but to function at a service to you, not the other way around. So, the main thing about the breathing, keep this in mind, my brothers and sisters, it's very important to always breathe in through your nose. Always. Always, always, always breathe in through your nose. Once you breathe in, you hold it in for a few seconds, to right before you're about to panic from holding it too long, and then just release it either through your nose or through your mouth. But never breathe in through your mouth. You're not going to breathe in enough oxygen, meaning enough life force. Okay? So always breathe in through your nose, hold it for a few seconds, and then release it through your diaphragm. Now, here is the key. In case you guys didn't know, the solar, S-O-L-A-R, solar plexus, look it up. It's literally where they tell us the solar plexus is at, right? But what most people don't know is that the solar plexus is basically the antipode. Okay, and some of you might know this, whoever listens to Dutchinson, the antipode is the opposite side, okay, of the mass. Meaning, when he refers to it, is the earthquake, forecaster, he refers to it as the antipode of the earth. Well, to us, the solar plexus is the antipode to our spine. If you guys don't know, the spine actually has the ability to calculate and think. How can I say this? Think about it. What's dead center of the spine? The CNS, the central nervous system, which is connected to the brain. So, the solar plexus has the same ability, as above, so below, as inside, so outside, as in front, so in the back. That's how we're designed that way with our muscles. Our traps are the antipode of the chest muscles. But anyhow, so with this in mind, just keep in mind that the solar plexus has a lot more of a function that we have, even in the spiritual world, okay? They haven't even taught us that properly because it has been infiltrating people, in case you haven't noticed. But anyways, so the solar plexus has many, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, it's a major nerve plexus, and what's interesting too, that you're pointing out solar. It's like a yellow golden, like the sun as well.
Yes, exactly. So we truly are all sons of God.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly.
Yeah,
Really?
As the caller the other night was talking about how the semantics and the language can be just so obvious in so many ways.
Yes, and I mean the things he was talking about. I mean, and to those of you who are normal, regular listeners, some of you didn't fully understand what he was talking about. Some of you did. I mean, I was so intrigued by what he was saying. It was so true, especially when he mentioned about the alphabet. Now, if you guys don't remember, there was this gentleman called Coconut B, I believe it was, from the Big Island. He was talking about the 22 real letters, all right, and their meanings that he found in the caves in Hawaii. And to me, that correlated, and it brought so much magic in my solar plexus, if you may, because, I mean, think about what the gentleman said. I believe it was Gary. He mentioned how the gentleman that he was taking care of has so happened to be the magic number 88 years old, and he said that when he asked him, sir, why don't you worry about your foot that has an infection because of your diabetes and this and that? And the gentleman, after a while didn't answer him, but he showed him, and then he answered him, I don't use my leg because I don't need it. And what he was doing, he was floating in midair. And if you guys don't believe it, man, I feel sorry for you, man, because like he was saying, he even mentioned Peter Pan. That's how we should be. That's what the Bible always tells us. Matthew 23:24, I believe. I forgot what it was. No, that wasn't it. That's the other one. But anyway, it says, if we want to enter the kingdom of heaven, if we want to enter it, not if we want to die and then get accepted. If we want to enter the kingdom of heaven, we must become as children. Just like in Peter Pan, Gary was mentioning how in Peter Pan, everybody was kind of like, not immature, but they were childlike. And that's how we should be, with curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that's the key, is truly is breathing, the breath of God. Which is, once you start to take conscious breath, you'll see that eventually you'll start clearing your mind properly with God in mind, which means what? That's the next one will be the Word of God, which means what? Your mind is so clear properly that everything you speak is, in a sense, the Word of God, because it's so clean, it's so neutral, it's so not biased. And then after that, that's when the path of God comes, because now the mind and the heart is good. That means the core is good, the solar plexus, and now you can have the path of God, meaning everything you say or do will be an example, a divine example for the rest to see and be.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, yes. So thank you all for listening, and hopefully this helps you. Just don't forget, please, like Michael keeps mentioning, visualization is key. And we're only limited to creativity, so please, this is one time you should be childish and just picture your pain being red, and you're being a volcano, and the pain is coming out of you, stuff like that. Really, I swear, and when you have fun like that in your mind, and you're stuck in that, and not in your freaking prioritizing and calculating what you got to do tomorrow and this and that, that's when you poison yourself, because that naturally releases cortisol.
Exactly. It's what we talked on another video about activating the vagus nerve, and getting into that nice, relaxed state of being. And one of our subscribers is like, Deborah says, does Zeke have a cough? Yeah, he's been coughing a little bit too. I think he does feel the red tide too as well. We all are here. But yes, that is the key. That is definitely the key. And it's just, we have basically these two systems. We're either in one or we're in the other. It's flipping the switch. And so you want to stay in the one that's going to keep you in a healing mode.
Yes, exactly. And don't forget that we can consume more than just food, and we really don't need much food. Really, we don't. If you look at the molecular structure of the plant, okay, and compare it to the human hemoglobin, it's exactly the same. There's only one extra carbon on the plant. Okay, it's actually the same. So that, what does that tell you? Just like the Essenes was trying to teach us, that we can literally photosynthesize the sun energy, the radiation. Okay, so there's a way to do it. You don't just stand there and 12 in the afternoon right under the sun and just, I'm bathing under the sun and I'm going to get healthier. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to do certain things, obviously, it's be safe about it. But that was one thing that they taught us also. The real meaning of being baptized by water. Do you know what that truly means, people? What that truly means is you adding water into your system and flushing it out. I swear to you, this might sound crazy, and you will take months to find this information, but you will find it. If you care about yourself, please. Some of you might already have an idea, and you might ask someone else, and then you might find the answer really quick. But if you do, please share that information so that I don't sound so crazy just myself. But really, I swear to you. And then the baptism by fire, that's the Christos. Christos in Greek means fire, but Christos is the anointed oil. Christos, what does Christos sound like? Christ. So that's when the way you get baptized by fire is when the main thing is actually you have to sustain from sex. Who can do that? It's very difficult for the normal human being to sustain from sex because then you don't, release that seed. Obviously, not forever and ever and ever. No. It's just certain times you just gotta find your schedule. There's certain things, but it's beautiful. I mean, every time I do it, I sleep for at least 9 to 16 hours the day after I reach my 25 day of the Christ consciousness, the anointed oil being released back up to the colostrum. And I could only sleep 4 hours the most a day, and I've been doing that since when I was a kid. For some reason, I can't sleep very much, and it's not that I'm worried about things, and it's not like I wake up all tired and groggy. No, I sleep 4 hours, I wake up, and I'm full of energy, ready to go. But anyways, when I do the Christ consciousness thing, okay, like Santos Bonacci's and several other people have brought it up. Truly, like I sleep like a baby, and I feel so alive. I have so much energy. The creativity goes on fire. If you guys would see me, you guys won't think I'm the age that I am. Nowhere near. It's weird. It really, truly is the true fountain of youth. That's why it was never found, people, because it's inside of you, and you, and you, and you, and everybody else listening, and your children as well.
So what does your diet look like?
Okay, thank you for asking. Yeah, that's what I keep forgetting to bring this up, but yeah, I only truly eat. I have been eating one meal a day for the past maybe 5 years, and now I have the same physique, muscular. I have lean muscle. I have, not to sound arrogant or egotistical, but I have a 12-pack, and I only eat about 1,100 calories or 1,200 the most per day. Before, when I had the same body, I used to eat at least 4,000 calories and work out like an insane martial artist that was ready to go to war for 7 countries or something. But now I take it easy because I found ways to consume other than for food. But the way my meals look like is just it's mainly vegetarian. No red meat at all. Simple fact, only because it takes so long to digest. It's not efficient for the body. So imagine if you eat a steak once a day at least. 1 8-ounce of steak takes at least 3 days to fully digest. By the time your body's done digesting, it already used up the protein and energy that is necessary. So you actually waste more energy trying to digest that red piece of meat that actually has all kinds of nasty chemicals and cortisol, because remember, the way the animal was treated before it was dead, okay, that's what you're eating. I mean, even cats know this. Cats, when they get a mouse or a bird, they kill it slowly, and they pat it, almost play with it for a little while. Once it's fully dead, it stops breathing by itself, then they eat it. They don't eat it right away. So anyhow, so 1,200 calories, I eat it one full meal. Sometimes I split it in too. I do drink a lot of water. I eat a lot of live foods, a lot of electric foods. Say for instance, a lot of nuts, walnuts, almonds. So I do coffee enemas almost daily, and then something that is important for all of you, whether you do coffee enemas or not, is apple cider vinegar and honey. Drink a little bit of that because your body needs to be acidic. Your stomach, your body needs to be alkaline. But if you are eating too much raw foods, too much water, you might be flushing out your electrolytes and the acidity of your stomach, which is not a good thing. Your stomach needs to stay acidic. So that's why you would do that. And then after that, feed it. Feed that microbiome with Greek yogurt, but make it delicious. I add coconut shavings on it because I love coconut. That's how I get my protein and my healthy fats. That's through coconut. I eat it in all shapes and forms, cream, milk, but from the can, not like the ones you buy in the store. The shavings, all that. Coconut and avocado is the best healthy fats. But anyhow, all protein comes from chia seeds and mainly hemp seeds are the main ones. But I mean, eventually with you, Michael, I'll share some stuff so that you can share with the people. Just at least there's a different perspective of how you can actually fuel your body properly without making it feel bloated and still be able to eat the proper delicious food that's actually going to work for your body, for your brain, for your heart, for your blood. That's another thing. People don't even feed their blood. For instance, chlorophyll. Again, chlorophyll is what makes the plants green. So it is taken from plants, and if we eat it, our blood, our red blood cells, have the ability to reproduce quicker and actually be a little bit more super natural in the sense that it binds to oxygen a lot better. So what does that mean? Extra oxygenation to your brain, to your body, to everywhere, just from simply supplementing with chlorophyll, which comes from plants.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That was breakfast. It was fresh juice with basically a green shake. Spirulina, chlorella. What else? I have moringa in it. Some veggie protein. And I agree. For most of the time, I like to have one decent sized meal and then either a shake in the morning. Sometimes I just feel like fruit and I just crave fruit. So a lot of times that's just watermelon and pineapple or perhaps some other melon as well. But yeah, I mean, we really don't need to eat as much as we do. And it's interesting too because I've followed that and followed my weight. And, it's not calories in, calories out. It really isn't. No, it's definitely very interesting, my brother. Well, thank you so much tonight for sharing all that with us as well. Always a great conversation.
Most definitely. Thank you all for listening. Whoever was interested, if it resonated with you, don't follow my word. Don't follow Michael's word. We're just exposing you to something that might work for you. So just look into it. So anyhow, don't forget, you're only limited to creativity, and pain is temporary. Pride is eternal, meaning fulfillment lasts forever. The fight will be worth it, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional. One love, one light. Put together, our life will shine much brighter. I love you all. Thank you, Michael. Have a good one.
You too, brother. Much love.
Thank you.
Namaste. So that's Nazaya, and he's from California. And always interesting. So many different topics we talk about all the time. And the only thing that ever shows consistently that it always increases lifespan is caloric restriction. So again, if your basal metabolic rate, that's basically how many calories you burn just doing nothing, is say 2,000 for a guy. If you cut it down, like 25% or so, cut it down to like 1,500, 1,400. This studies show you're going to live like 5 to 7 years longer. It's really a big difference. You could just think about it as the fact that it's less for the body to process, less toxins building up, and you're going to go ahead and actually, live longer. You're going to have less free radicals building up in the body, and it just makes sense, and that's the only thing that all the time shows that it does lead to a longer, healthier life. Less inflammation. Inflammation is one of the biggest causes of disease in the body. So, very interesting thoughts. And if anybody out there wants to give a call in, we do have an open line at 614-400-5835. Seeing lots of love out there in the chat room tonight, which is awesome. A very nice thing, as always. So many different topics covered tonight, from meditation to, diet, longevity, FEMA coffins that are stored away in Georgia, all sorts of stuff. I saw there was a mention of another new one out there. There was I think his name was Dr. Sean Faust, that was stealing some of my stuff, not just my stuff, but he had taken some of my videos, took like half of one of my videos, took like half of one of Rex's videos from Leak Project, put them together, didn't do anything, and just put them on his channel and was making money off of them. And there's a lot of that's going on right now. And I'm trying to remember what the name of this new one is. I think Lisa Lavender had mentioned it. Maybe she could put it out there again if she remembers. But there's another one, and it's like another one of you guys said, hey, did you know that you're on this guy's channel? And there you go. No, I don't. But when I tried to do something about it with YouTube, you have to fill out a form. And you know what that form says? That form says that it's news channel. News channel is what Lisa says it is. That form says that if they find that there's not sufficient evidence to back up your claim, YouTube can take down your channel. So I thought, well, I don't want to go there because they'll take down my channel. So then I got really suspicious of it, thinking, is this a way that they're trying to goad you into doing something so your channel can be gone? And you never know, because there's so many people out there that these channels are doing this too. I mean, gosh, what was that other guy's name? Oh, I can't remember now. But I mean, the last one I saw, there was like 4 of us, and they're all channels that I know, including this one. And it was just an amalgam. It was just 4 separate sections from 4 different videos, none of which this person did anything with, but they just went and spliced them together. And, it's horrible because they're basically making money off of everybody else. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
This is Tom from
Hi.
Colorado.
Hey, Tom from Colorado. How's it going, my friend?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'd like to keep going on the spiritual side tonight.
Sure. That would be good.
Right. But that last caller, that guy is great. He's just wonderful. He'd make a good neighbor or something.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a good mind. He's got a real good mind.
He
so
does.
It was real enjoyable. I like talking to him.
And he's so knowledgeable on so many different things.
Yeah, and just very cool. Like I said, it'd be cool to have a neighbor like that. It would be nice. He just seems like a real good mind. But I've talked to you about angels and going up into what I think is the next level. And he was kind of hitting on it, the last caller, on coming up on how you can do it different ways, because I do it a lot. You're like really trained and I'm not. I just learned how to do it by myself. But you did help me. About 6 weeks ago, you did some kind of thing where you do it 108 times. You go E-A, like in a chant.
Yes.
And the way that kind of helped me is because it showed me a new way to get to that level, and that was because you started on the ground with your feet, then you go up through your body and then out the pineal gland. That was cool.
that exercise led me to start from the very ground and then go up and out. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feeling the energy flow on up and out, and it promotes the Kundalini.
And so good for you. You taught me that.
Yeah.
I mean, it helped me get farther and more easier into that level.
Right. Well, that's excellent. That's good. Yeah, it's amazing what that will do. It'll definitely.
I took a little bit out of there. I'm still not doing it right or nothing, but I just used something that you showed me. So I do listen to like your shows and stuff, and that show was like a really nice show. It was a way to learn something. I have nerve damage in my feet and stuff, so it's hard for me to kind of like do stuff like that, but I did the whole routine with you. And at the end, I have nerve damage in my feet and stuff. Man, that power came up and through, and that was another thing that you taught me.
Well, that's awesome, Tom. I'm glad it helped. And then, have you tried any of the other ones? Because I have some older ones in there too, as far as meditations and qigong practices.
No, I haven't done that, but I want to learn, but I'm kind of doing it like at a pace.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be as afraid. I should just go ahead and do it. But I'm gonna kind of tell people like how I do it. And when I first started doing it, I was doing it laying down, and that was comfortable for me to start. But that's where your teaching came in. I didn't go from my feet really. I came from the mid stomach area up and through and then out. And that's how I did it, but I still got there. And the way that I do it is when I start going out or out my pineal gland, once you have to be real relaxed and kind of know what you want to do. And so that's how I started. And I asked the Holy Spirit that is it cool if I come in there? And then if he opens that door, I'm there. And sometimes it opens, sometimes it don't. Most times it does. Now that I know how to do it. And the cool part about and more, I want people to try it themselves. You do got a guardian angel. There is a next level. This level sucks, man. The next level, the people don't lie. Your thoughts are connected, so there is no lying. You can't lie. And we're right now being taught that lying's acceptable, and it's not. It's a very rude thing to do to a person. It's very unrespectful of a person to lie to them. And at this level, if they don't lie, your thoughts are transferred, and so it's impossible for you to lie because of the ones that you're with. And when we get there, all of us, it's going to be a real cool place, man. It's very nice, and but in the meantime, we got to get through this test here. Now, when you go to that next level, you meet all kinds of different people or entities or whatever you want to call them. I always ask the Holy Spirit, so I think I only go in a good way. I don't know if you could do it like if you were a Satan worshiper or something, if you would go the other way. But I like the way I go because they're real cool, and I just always say, man, I can I come in? I just want to hang out and be at peace for a while. And they're cool with that, and that's a real nice place to be. Or sometimes, if you have questions on life or you want to know something, you can explore that a little bit, and it's just really nice. And but if you're you have to get along with other human beings, and I think right now this racism thing that has kind of just popped up is really not a good thing for a lot of people if you get into that trap, because when you get to the next level, there's different entities that you have to deal with, and I feel that on this level, the racism is a test that they're watching and seeing how you do. And the ones that aren't doing so good, they're not in a good position.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is a test. I think it's all about how we act here, and we come here, in some ways we're here to be tested and to see how we're going to react, and are we just going to operate out of love, service to others, or are we going to operate out of service to self and just basically do everything, self-gratification wise. So it's a big test in so many ways. It takes you back to the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the weighing of the soul in the afterlife, and it can't be heavier than a feather.
Yeah. That's cool thought.
Yeah.
Now, another way that I enter in one of the things I was one of your videos, you showed the chemical spraying and what it's doing to those children, and it was heartbreaking to see those girls' faces and stuff. And so another thing that's a way to enter into that realm is to pray for those children that you see and what they're going to go through. And they're only little. They're not even adults yet. And it was very sad. And so, like, if you pray for those children, that will help you enter into that realm also. I've been concentrating myself. I saw a lady with a handicapped girl, mental wise, was really not so good, and I kept thinking about that, and I kept praying about that. I kept saying, man, there's nothing wrong with me. Look at what this lady's got to go through. So I started praying for her, and that worked well to open that door again. And so that's kind of, is that love, or is that caring? Care for other people is real important right now. To care for these people that are misplaced and the ones that are getting set up, and then we're getting sprayed every day. And by the way, that one guy there's no spraying in Southern Colorado today. It wasn't like super heavy, but they're doing a new kind of chemtrail. It turns into a cloud. It's not like a huge line anymore. It kind of like starts dissipating right out the ass end of them. Now, I was a firefighter in this rural area, and I did that for 11 years until my nerve damage and stuff. And why don't they, instead of spraying us with this poison, refit those nozzles and go out there and spray out those fires and become heroes to us, not be hurting us like this. This is not right, this chemical spraying. This isn't a need-to-know thing. This is our lives that playing with, and you can't get away from it once they spray. And my nerves were just totally reacting to this. The new spray is kind of like, it's not as, I think they're going to keep it up as long as that people won't look up and notice. But the new spray is like, it spreads out real fast. And the way that you can tell the clouds, and it clouds up right away, is they're kind of wispy. Mm-hmm. Instead of like cloud. But everything's fake. The sun's fake. The moon's fake. It is really an interesting point in time that we are living in.
Very interesting, and great insights there, my friend. Great insights. Thank you so much for sharing again, as always.
All right, Michael. God bless you, man.
God bless you too, brother.
Bye.
Take care. Good night. So that was Tom from Colorado with some interesting insights there as well. Interesting thoughts. Yeah, it does feel like the chemtrails that are there are different. They are different. And, go back to like what Asia was saying, and I think that she was right on now. She had said that she saw basically, there was like biologicals that were going to be released in the chemtrails in Florida. And that was before the red tide. And so that was before the red tide really started. And after the fact now, it really makes me wonder, is that what really is going on here? And as Thor is talking about the YouTube trolls, and I do think that's the case. I think a lot of them are plants, and it's all part of that. Some feel like bots. Some are bots. I could tell with the way that they put things in there. They try to be divisive and all. So a lot of interesting thoughts tonight, and I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. As always, it was a great show. Thank you guys for your calls and your thoughts. Thank all of you for the love that's out there in the chat room. It's a beautiful thing. And we'll be doing this again. Probably going to be on the road somewhat, so I'm not sure if we're going to have one before Tuesday. But I will let you guys know. I promise before I do. So as always, my friends, thank you so much for being part of this family. May you guys be blessed with abundant peace, health, love, and always be kept safe in these times. And I will catch you guys again very soon. Namaste, my brothers and sisters. Much love. Take care.